Do I think he's been treated unfairly? I think a little bit, yes. I think it could have been handled better, the whole situation. I think mistakes have been made on both sides. I think Raheem Sterling should have been given more warning that Chelsea wanted to sell him this summer. He was only really told 2 weeks before transfer deadline day, 2 days before the season started. So in that respect, yes, I think he's been treated unfairly. But Raheem Sterling has been in football a long time. Very good piece by Sam Wallace today in the Telegraph. He makes the point that Chelsea are treating Raheem Sterling in exactly the same way that Raheem Sterling treated Liverpool. When he wanted to leave Liverpool, he didn't want to sign a new contract, and he ended up going to Manchester City. So Raheem Sterling has been in football a long time. He knows how the business works. He knows it's ruthless. And, you know, I think it could have been handled better, but at the end of the day, he's earning more than £300,000 a week. He's still got 3 years left on his contract. We live in a world where, you know, a lot of people are working on 0 hours contracts, when people don't have any employment rights, really. So, yes, I have some sympathy for him. But on the other hand, if you look at the bigger picture, this is just what happens in football. New owners come in, new head coaches come in. They decide they want to balance the books. They decide a certain player is not for them. He's earning too much. And they let him know that they want to move in a different direction.
I think there's a couple of things relating to this before we look at the other aspects of that. You referenced Sam's piece. Sam also makes the point in this piece that, yes, this is football. These are venture capitalists in charge of Chelsea, but and players are bought, sold, but they're human beings. And I think the things that struck me about this is not only are they human beings, but they have children, they have families. It isn't just the footballer who is affected by a decision to arbitrarily turn around and say thanks but no thanks, after all of the messages prior to that had been complimentary. You think about Maresca. In pre-season, he actually said that Sterling is an important player for him,
and he was on the tour with them.
Club.
You know, it's like...
Absolutely. And then at the start of the season, he says a completely different thing.
But he would have been asked a question about Raheem Sterling. As a Chelsea head coach, he's not going to turn around and say he's not an important player.
Well, that's what he said 2 days before the first game of the season.
But he wouldn't have said anything different. If he's asked a question, he's always going to say in public.
I don't think so. Come on, you and I have been in football long enough to know football. If there are players that are not in a manager's plans, a manager can say, listen, he's a good player, but I'm not quite sure how he fits into my system at the moment. And there's a diplomatic way to put it. I mean, we give Herzler credit, for example, for the way that he's just come into Brighton, but he's so respectful about the way he talks about the players, the opposition managers, and the ecosystem that he stepped into in the Premier League. And I think it's a very different messaging that comes out of Chelsea.
You know, I think what Chelsea would say from their perspective, they would say that he played in pre-season. Enzo Maresca had a look at him and he decided, especially with other players coming in like João Felix, that he didn't really need Raheem Sterling. And he told him face to face at the end of the training session, and Chelsea will do whatever they can to make sure that they can find him another club.
But that was training session on the Friday before the match on Sunday, and then also this week, a public display of, you know, with the Pedro Neto situation. You know, number 7 shirt is now Pedro Neto's. It's like, you are gone.
And that's
but again, Chelsea, I think, would say, OK, the number 7 shirt, he had the number 7 shirt for 1 season. We're not talking about George Best. You know, we're not talking about Zinedine Zidane and the number 5. You know, this kind of thing happens in football the whole time. He'd been told that he wasn't going to stay at the club, so it was a no-brainer that somebody else was going to take the number 7 shirt.
You know.
Well, just one more thing, and I know what we'll do, as I'm making this point, I'll just show you Johnny Northcross' piece, because it's outstanding and it gives a full picture, because we do need to be balanced around this and have a grown-up conversation rather than just dismissing Chelsea as a joke and a circus. He does suggest that they do, look at the subject there, they do have a plan. They did make the Dodgers, at the time, the worst run team in America. They did turn them into a successful model. What he questions is whether you can transfer that to football. And he's saying that with the acquisitions that are being made and the player trading, the mixed messaging, and all of the things that don't feed into helping to create a settled structure within the team, those things run counter to the way that we've always seen things done before. I know Gary Neville once said, what is it that Chelsea know that all the other successful teams in the Premier League don't? If you look at the top 3 teams in the Premier League, this is my opinion here, not Gary's, the Arsenal, City and Liverpool have made 4 signings between them. You look at the number of players that have been bought and sold at Chelsea, and it's far, far more. And I think that's quite key. I want to show you this as well, because this is a sold 11 from Chelsea. There is so much to do around this. And when you look at this team and the players in this team, Havertz has gone on to challenge for the title with Arsenal. Look behind him, Kovacic went past £225 million worth of midfielder to score against Chelsea for Manchester City last weekend. I mean, all around this team, when you look at the quality in there, you see players that haven't exactly struggled when they've moved on.
I can't believe what they've done there. They put manager Thomas Tuchel, assistant Maurizio Pochettino, first team coach Graham Potter.
I think they're being a little bit tongue-in-cheek with that strategy.
But the general point is that when the new ownership went into Chelsea, actually there wasn't that much to fix. Now, you could argue, as you have done off camera with me, that they're venture capitalists and their whole business model. I know from sitting across a table with them in America, they spelt out what they're trying to do. They look at the data, they look at the numbers, they try to buy young players, try to get them to realise their value. They don't want to be going to clubs like Brighton and spending huge amounts of money all the time. But again, you're dealing with players. And when you look at the man management at Arsenal, we give them so much credit on this show at Arsenal for the way that they manage players, they look after players. Pep Guardiola told you, Vicky, the players at City have everything they want. They're settled, they're a unit. When they play, there's a cohesion, because at the club, football comes first. And to get them to play their best football, they create the conditions for that to happen.
My only question with the whole strategy that I think is becoming clearer and clearer is that why wasn't that strategy in place from the very beginning? Because they did come in and they got Raheem Sterling. They put him on wages of 300,000 plus. And now they're looking at that and thinking that's not sustainable. I think, I could be wrong, but that's my understanding of the situation. They have done brilliantly in reducing player wages. You know, they're under the average for the Premier League. Yeah. So I think you can see clearly what's going on right now. But my question would be, why wasn't it that clear from the start?
Because they made some mistakes.
Okay.
They made some mistakes at the start. I think on Raheem Sterling, he's been a victim of circumstances. I'm not anti-Raheem Sterling at all. I think he's a brilliant player. He's a fantastic role model. He's been treated badly sometimes by the media as well. That's a discussion for another day. He's a brilliant player, but he has been caught in this situation where Chelsea are trying to reduce their wage bill and they think he earns too much. I think the bigger picture is, what do you think modern football is? Do you think it's a sport or a business? We've gone down the road where it's become a business. We're letting anybody pretty much buy Premier League clubs as long as you pass a few tests. So we've had states buying clubs. We've got private equity, hedge funds. These people are buying clubs for a variety of reasons. But if you are a private equity firm, you are buying a club because you believe it's in a distressed state and you can improve things, turn it around and make it worth a lot more. And I think that's what the Chelsea owners are doing.